Okay, in today's video I'm going to be teaching you how to make a Calico Critters dress for the adult size figures. We're going to be using a dress pattern that is available for download in my Etsy shop. Let's get into it. Alright, so our first step is going to be to cut out our pattern pieces. As a side note, I have included seam allowance. So around here, you're actually going to be sewing this inside line, and this is the seam allowance out here. I recommend you keep a little trash can next to you to dispose of all of the extra paper, fabric scraps, thread, all of the little bits of trash that we're going to create throughout this process. We have all of our pieces cut out. We're going to need 2 of the shirt pattern, because we are going to have an inside lining, and then just 1 of the skirt pattern. And then if you do want to add any extras, there is a Peter Pan collar and an apron. Alright, let's pick out some fabric. So for today's project, we're going to be using this really pretty floral keepsake calico cotton fabric, and then just a lilac fabric as well for the lining. I think that way it's going to be really easy to show you guys the right sides and the wrong sides of the fabric. So let's get everything lined up. And this step isn't totally necessary, but it is going to make your life a lot easier and your projects look a lot cleaner, and that is to iron your fabric if it has a lot of folds in it. I'm just using this tiny iron. It's like a mini travel iron that I got off Amazon for like 10 bucks, I think. It doesn't have a brand, but I will try to link it below if I can find the exact one that I used. This is my favorite thing. It's little and it gets all of these wrinkles out of the fabric. Make sure you are doing this on an iron safe surface. So my actual desk is made of wood, but I have this felt like wool pad that I like to iron and so on. I always put another layer of fabric underneath it as well, just so the wool doesn't get too hot. Okay, so with this light purple fabric, I'm going to be using it as the lining, so we only need to cut out the inside part of the shirt. We won't need any of the skirt parts or anything. So what I like to do is trace this with either a pen or a pencil, whatever works best. Literally, just whatever you've got on hand. And just hold it in place. You could pin this and then cut it out, but I actually find it's easier to just trace it and then cut out where you've traced than trying to deal with all of those pins, and then the pins are going to mess up your pattern. You're going to have to print out more, and it's just easier to do it this way. And then we're going to do the same thing on our floral pattern as well. Be sure you are tracing on the wrong side of the fabric, not the right side, so that if you do have any pin marks that get on the fabric, they're not going to show in the final piece. Also, if you are lining up your skirt and your shirt, if your pattern is like striped or checkered or something and it has a direction, just make sure that everything is facing the same direction. You don't want like horizontal stripes on the shirt and then like vertical stripes on the skirt, unless that's what you're going for. And I don't remember if I mentioned this earlier, with the keepsake calico fabrics, they are like a really nice cotton weave and they have like no stretch. So if you are just starting out sewing, give yourself a break and get yourself a cotton fabric or something that has no stretch. It's going to make your life a lot easier. And then when you feel like, you know, you've got it down pat, maybe you go to a knit fabric or something stretchier. We have all of our pieces that we're going to need for a really simple, basic dress. I'm not going to deal with making a collar or an apron or anything today. I'm just going to show you the basics. It really helps to fray check your edges, and this is just going to keep things from getting unraveled. Our fray check has dried, and it's time to start sewing. So we're going to take our fabrics and we're going to put them right sides together. So the side that the pattern is on and the good side that the pin marks are not on. And then we're just going to pin these together so they don't slip around while we are sewing them. And I've just drawn with a pin to show you how I sew. So I'm going to start sewing and go all the way around. And then I'm going to stop before I get back to where I started because we're going to want to leave a hole here to turn it inside out again. If you're sewing by hand, you're just going to want to sew closer to that inside stitch line. Whoops. That's better. Okay, I know that looked really simple, but my sewing machine just like jammed on me 3 times in a row. So I'm just here to say that if anybody has felt personally victimized by their sewing machine, I'm here for you. And we should start a Sewing Machine Victims Anonymous. Okay, the next thing we're going to want to do is just sew a straight stitch, either with the sewing machine or by hand, across the top here, and don't backstitch. We're going to use this to pull the skirt together and like make little gathers. So next we're going to turn the shirt inside out using our little hole that we left at the bottom. So we're just going to take it and flip it inside out. It helps sometimes to trim the corners off here, and it's just going to make it sit a little bit nicer. Once it's turned inside out, you're not going to have all that extra fabric. I would also go around the neckline here and make tiny little cuts, because again, it's going to make it a lot easier when we turn it inside out for that to lay really flat without like creating any little puckers around the edges. And it should look something like this. So next we are going to take the top and fold the right sides of your patterned side together, and we're going to stitch just this little bit right here. We want to leave an opening large enough for the arms of your critter. These are going to be the sleeves. So yeah, just stitch this little itty bitty bit right here. And we are going to turn it back right ways. And I may have made this sleeve a little too small, but that's okay. I will just go in with like a seam ripper or your scissors and just trim a few of these like threads right here that are making the sleeves too tight. Okay, and then you have what is now the top of a dress. Now we just need to sew the bottom on and we'll be all done. We have our sewn top, and then we have our skirt part. The side that you just did the running stitch on, we're going to want to gather that until it is about the length of the top. Okay, so you're starting to get kind of a shape that looks like this, and then this bottom edge, put it right sides together with your skirt piece, and we're just going to line these two things up and pin them together. Okay, so here is this little monstrosity. I've just pinned the bottom of the shirt part to the skirt part right sides together. And then we're just going to stitch along here and we'll be done. Something like that. Woo! Here is the finished product. I hope you enjoyed following along today. And if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments down below. If you want to follow along with this exact pattern, it is available in my Etsy shop over at Noble Sable. And I will see you all next time with another tutorial. Bye!